Hey, what's up, guys? If you're starting an accounting and tax business, I'm just going to dive right into it here. I'm going to address the whole idea of should you just do taxes. Now, I have a couple videos out just recently. It's March 2021 about whether or not doing taxes is a losing business. Go watch those videos. I think they're really helpful. But one of the things that keeps coming up is the people that are just starting their firm. You start to grapple with this whole tension that you have. On one side, you're listening to my videos and I'm telling you, make sure that you don't get in the business of only doing taxes, that it's a losing game, that if you commit to only doing taxes, you're not going to make any money. And then on the other end, that all sounds good until you have to ask for that big retainer, right? And people think that it's too complicated, it's too much messing around, or whatever it is. In fact, I have somebody that was just connecting with me. They've implemented almost everything that we've recommended, and they're kind of in this weird pickle where they're like, hey, we're on board with not getting too busy doing tax returns, and yet most of our clients these prospects that we're talking about through our sales activity are saying, hey, we want to do what you want to do, but let us just get our taxes done first. Or maybe you're bumping into people that kind of like the idea of doing this, but right now they're just like, just get my taxes done, right? So another problem that you have is as you're first getting started, you can be putting forth this kind of grandiose, giant idea that, oh, I'm going to do your bookkeeping, your taxes, your proactive tax planning. In fact, by doing this, we're going to change your bottom line and look at the gigantic impact we're going to make in your business. So I have 2 tips to help you kind of move through this and it depends on the stage that you're at. So the first thing that I want you to know is to remember that I think that business should happen in kind of 2 stages. First, you have to just execute and get credibility, right? You got to get credibility in terms of just finding people to do stuff for. Find people that need their bookkeeping cleaned up. Find people that have broken accountant or their bookkeeping in QuickBooks has never been touched. It hasn't been touched in 2 years. Or find people that just need a business tax return, right? So one of the cool things about this business model, even if you're just a bookkeeper, is if you can at least figure out how to file the taxes, but then if you can do it really well, people kind of have to come to you, right? So you ultimately have a prospecting tool in doing just taxes. But I would tell you that your goal to get started is, of course, you're constantly fishing for that perfect client that you can be their outsourced accountant, that you can add tremendous value, that you can ask a higher retainer. You're, of course, looking for that. But on the other side, it's really hard for people to start that because they know it's new for you, or it sounds strange to them, or man, you're $400, $800 a month. Are you kidding me? I'm going to pay you $6,000 to do my taxes and to do my bookkeeping. That just sounds ridiculous. So the fact of the matter is what you want to do is you got to build up credibility and just do work until you can get to a point where you have a whole bunch of customer testimonials and a whole bunch of value that's been added. And a lot of times you have to do that for cheap or free. You know, when you're first getting started in this whole thing, you might be looking for this perfect client, and then you heed my advice that says don't get so busy doing tax returns that you can't do the proactive tax planning, or to do tax, do an initial tax plan and then provide services throughout the year. As much as you want to cherry pick for those clients, you also got to remember that a lot of times you earn that by just doing their taxes 1 year, right? So there's this super difficult balance in this whole thing of 1, you just need some money. 2, sometimes people just want something kind of simple. And 3, you got to get good. You have to not only build credibility through getting reps and doing these tax returns or doing bookkeeping cleanups or whatever it is as you're getting started. Not only do you have to build credibility by getting testimonials and reviews, which I'm telling you, go watch my other videos. That's the critical part of your business startup, is show the trust that you're earning every time. If you do new business as you're getting started and you're not getting a review, you're definitely missing out. Not only do you want a review, but you approach them and say, hey, can I take your review and put it on my website? I'd love to, if there's a quick video you could make that says, hey, I worked with Rob, they did a good job, send it to me and I'll throw it on my YouTube channel. You can put it on your website. The main thing is you just want to show that you are worthy of trust, right? And that's so critical. So as you're getting started, that's what you're doing. You're trying to get reps to prove that you're credible, trying to get those customer reviews. Then the other thing that you just got to remember is as you're doing these reps, it's the core need that everybody has, right? Every business owner and every subcontractor that's making 1099 income out there has this requirement where they need a tax return done. And a lot of times for you to, do those tax returns but don't have the tax return be all about the money making, right? It's almost like it's a simple thing to offset your costs, right? You don't want to be too expensive so they all say no. And you don't want to be so cheap that you just get filled up doing a bunch of nonsense work. But just remember that the tax return is the core thing that each business owner has to do, right? So I guess what I'm getting at is there's a difficult balance between getting too busy screwing around tax returns, but yet not having the credibility, or even the credibility to your customer, but also the abilities internally to find perfect clients because you just haven't done it, right? So that's the other thing that getting these reps under your belt are going to help you with, is as you do just a tax return, you're going to get in there and you're going to be like, doggone it, these guys are not doing the right thing. And it's going to make your blood boil a little bit. And what you want to do is, guys, I'm telling you, after this, let's get you implemented, and I'd love to help you out, okay? I'm telling you, if you were to do a couple of things over the next 3 years, we're going to take this $15,000 that you used to spend on self-employment tax, let's get that down to $7,000. And there's a couple things that you can do. One, we do a tax planning and implementation session where we will create a tax plan, and then I'll help you implement it. And that setup's going to be, $2,500. And so have an upfront fee to get all of that, right? And then after that, you can do the services. And that's the second piece of advice. So I'm just going to shift right into it. So the first thing, how do you actually get these bigger retainer clients when you're just getting started and it seems like everybody just wants tax returns? And well, do the tax returns, right? As you're getting started, do the bookkeeping cleanups. Do that simple stuff so that you can earn some reps, get some trust, get some reviews, get some testimonials, and then eventually you want to get in this position where you're cherry picking and finding these core clients. You're always looking for the core client, and the core client is twofold. This is one of the things that I haven't done a good job of explaining through all of these videos. The first thing that you want to do is you want to convey this idea that there's an initial analysis, tax plan, and then setup. So the tax plan needs to be tied to an implementation, right? So the whole idea is you're going to go in there, you're going to sniff around, you're going to find all of the tax savings potentials. And once you find those potentials, they need to be implemented. And that implementation is a whole bunch of legal screwing around, filing paperwork to become an S Corp, setting up the payroll system, making sure that their books are all the way up to date, doing the backup bookkeeping, get a chart of accounts that makes sense, help them understand where they're spending their money. And that is a ton of work. In fact, if you watch the other videos, that's probably 60% of your effort goes into that after you get the client. It's just the initial setup, and it gets really difficult. So what I usually recommend is create kind of a menu of services that you can provide. One, you can do just a tax return. Go ahead and do those until you get so busy that you don't have to do them anymore, right? Two, do these setups where what you're going to do is I'm going to do a tax plan. I'm going to help you implement the tax plan, and I'm going to do your backup bookkeeping and make sure that your books are done excellently and set up to do well from here on out, right? And that can be between probably $500 to $5,500, depending on how you want to do your taxes. Some people will charge, $10,000, $15,000 in tax planning. If you can gear up towards that, more power to you, right? There's this weird balance between, withholding enough of the secret sauce so that they need to talk to you and need to implement it. But remember that it's not necessarily knowing, you're going to use an S Corp. That's a small part of it. The other thing that you'll want to do is just help them understand that you're going to get it all done for them. Because that integration and taking 5 or 6 pieces, getting the bookkeeping set up right with a chart of accounts, getting the payroll system set up, filing the 1120, or what is it, the 2553 to get it converted to an S Corp, helping them make sure that the paperwork's done right, doing the tax return at the end of the year. Like, you're gonna do all of that together, right? So number one, do taxes. Number two, do this initial setup. I'm just gonna make sure that you're done right, and no matter what, man, you can do it by yourself after that. Go ahead and do your own accounting, bookkeeping, and make that payroll. Here's what I've found is that you're not gonna wanna do that. So we provide services afterwards, and the services are kind of based upon how complex your bookkeeping is, how complex your team is, how many employees you have, how many transactions a month. But we have excellent where we will just handle it for you. and we'll get that going. So what that does is it allows you to have a little bit of a menu. And again, I have to tension this with allowing a menu of services so that you have some diversity there. You have some fallbacks. When you present a good, better, best to a client, they don't feel like you're shoving this square peg into a round hole every time, right? They get to select a little bit of what they want. The other thing that you can do is make sure that you, even within these couple of, hey, you know what, I could just do your taxes. Here's what we do. To do your taxes, we're going to do a bookkeeping cleanup because your books are a mess. We're going to make sure your P&L is set up right. I'm going to show you how to do that from now on. So we'll get your books set up right. We'll do the year-end taxes. That whole thing, we're not the cheapest. We're not the most expensive. Our taxes are $1,500 to do the business taxes, the personal taxes with you and your wife or you and your husband, and we're going to do your kids too, right? So you allow this just one-time transaction until you get so busy you don't have to do that anymore. And then the second thing is, but what we'd really like to do is do a tax plan. We'll write a tax plan for you. And it doesn't have to be this 20-page something or other. Like, you can narrow it down to a paragraph, like a bullet points. Do this, do this, do this, do this. And it comes down to retirement plans, real estate, and entity type, right? And then you got to implement it, right? So there you have these initial setups between $500 and $5,500 or whatever you want to charge for it. A business is usually inclined to say, yeah, you know what? I'll pay $5,000 for you to save me $6,000 a year from here on out, right? And then what that does is it doesn't push them immediately into the services, but then what you'll want to do is also let them know, in order for you to implement that S Corp, in order for you to have a business where you don't worry about this stuff, you're going to want to make sure you have good accounting and bookkeeping. And here we kind of have a good, better, best for you. At $400 a month, here's what we'll do. We'll make sure that your books are done every month. We're going to do your taxes at the end of the year. We're going to pay in your quarterlies to make sure that we're paying in according to a tax plan. And that tax plan is meant to make sure that at the end of the year, you don't get a big tax return and you don't owe anything. And I'll just tell you, that's going to take away your fear. You're going to know where you're at, especially come quarter 3, quarter 4, all of a sudden, that you've been paying things in. Every other business owner, I know the anxiety because I end up doing this for myself a lot of times. Like the anxiety of not knowing what's about to happen as you're doing your taxes is always kind of frustrating. Whereas if you get this proactive tax thing, you're not going to have a bomb go off, right? So they can choose to have that peace of mind, that proactive tax planning, the proactive services, the financial statements always upkept, knowing where their money's going, and that's kind of a monthly thing. So you'll be able to land more clients like that if you bucket them out so that you have tax returns, you have a tax plan tied to implementation. I think you should also offer just, hey, we'll clean up all your books and get it ready, plus a tax return. That's an excellent setup. And that, charge backup bookkeeping. You don't need to get them into the minutia of everything, but have a setup where, hey, I tell you what, we'll clean up all your bookkeeping. We'll make sure that all your unemployment insurance is filed correctly, all that nonsense. We'll just do that for you. That's $2,500 at the end of the year. And then you have this tax plan and implementation, right? And then you have your services. By having a slight array of what's going on, what you'll do is you'll get people in the door and keep them going. Because that's the one thing I would also remind you, that there's this weird balance. You can't get too busy doing the tax returns that you can't add real value. And yet, if they do their taxes with you, they're not going to leave as long as you treat them right. So that's another tension that you're going to have, is especially when you have new businesses, right? If you connect with that new real estate agent and it's her second year, and she's just kind of confused, she can't really afford the whole thing, what do you do? Boy, I tell you what, do her taxes for her, because guess what, 2 years from now, if she lasts, she's going to want to implement some better stuff for you, right? And you can plant that seed, and that's kind of the prospecting cost that you'll do. The catch is you can't get so busy doing other taxes. And that's probably the main thing then, is to make sure that you're only doing business taxes and only do personal tax returns included with the business tax returns, so that you're not having Joey walk in from the street and you're not doing residential stuff. Because the other benefit of that is there's a logistical thing you don't think of, is that business taxes can usually get done during the day. You don't have to wait for nightfall to do the taxes if you're going to meet with them, right? You don't always have to meet with them, but even just a virtual meeting or whatever, when you're doing residential people that are we're doing direct to consumer or regular personal taxes, those people are working throughout the day on somebody else's clock. They can't talk to you during the day. So if you're going to have a meeting, you're often shoving your nights and weekends filled with a bunch of appointments that, quite frankly, make your life a little more miserable. B2B is sweet because, you know what, they'll talk to you in the middle of the afternoon. In fact, they probably prefer it, depending on if they're in construction or not. They got to make hay during the summer or spring months or whatever that is. So anyway, hopefully that helps you navigate some of this stuff. Good luck. God bless. I think I'm going to run a sale on our accounting class that I have out there right now. It's $500. I think I'm going to run a sale. If you're interested in that, let me know. I think I'm going to put out some coupons here, but some coupons. Good luck. God bless. And it's a pleasure to be able to connect with you here, guys.